we have a really good question, and I think it's on our topic. But I want to say first, I was listening to what you said about good ABA,
Yeah.
and I guess that's when we get to the question, it is really important to explain to people what that looks like. And I remember there was a mom who had her child go all the way through the CARD program, and when her daughter got sufficiently better, she threw a party, and she had an exhibit or a table or something, and on that table she had like all the metrics. So she had something that showed how many drills the young lady had done in the course of her whole treatment and how many hours she had spent to get to this point. And so when we talk about good ABA, it's got to be both good quality and it's got to be intensity. And I would just say, I'm talking to a lot of parents that have ABA from a provider that's just doing what insurance tells them to do. They're getting 9 hours a week. Their kid is 3, and nobody's ever sat down and talked to them about the fact that ABA has to be intensive to work, because it's essentially a brain training program. And you're doing reps, you're doing brain reps, and you can't get those brain muscles in shape if you're only going to do a few reps every day.
Yeah, amen to that, Bonnie. That message, the insurance companies have done a really good job of making that so messed up that it's very hard to get through to parents, that it's about intensity. And I think we all thought in the beginning that it was crazy. I remember the first time somebody told me that my 2.5-year-old son should be getting 40 hours a week of therapy. And I was like, well, that's just crazy. That is just crazy. Partially because it is crazy, and partially because I knew for sure that I couldn't afford it.
Well, exactly. We confronted something before 2012. I'll talk about it when we answer the question. But it was the same as being somebody that needs a medicine and you can't afford it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the grief and the helplessness that feels like is just so overwhelming. But the truth of the matter is, the studies are in. We know that it is not a one size fits all, but for most 3-year-olds who've recently been diagnosed, the prescription would be 40 hours a week. I mean, I guess there are some exceptions, but for the average 3-year-old who's just been diagnosed, 40 hours is pretty much the prescriptions. That's what the studies have shown. But no one can afford that. Oprah can't afford that. And so that's why we fought so hard for insurance funding. And now the irony that insurance funding is trying to normalize that 9 hours a week is enough makes me go a little bonkers. Let's get to the question.
I was expecting it all along. It's just taken 8 years to get here. 6 to 8 years.
Well, you're a visionary then, because I'm
just a lawyer, and I've dealt with insurance companies for my entire legal career. That's all.
I thought that having insurance was going to be the promised land, but they always remind me that when people got to the promised land, there were no curtains, there were no buildings. You still have to do the hard work. And I guess what I wanted, Bonnie, was for people to not have to work so hard to get funding. And in some respects, if people are in the know, they don't have to work as hard for funding, but you have to work hard to be in the know. And that's why we're here at the end of the day.
Let's talk for a second about what it was like in the old days.
Oof,
in terms of how hard you had to work to get funding. You had to bring a case against your school district and try to argue that their offer wasn't appropriate. And it was very hard, and you had to go to hearing often, and people took out second mortgages on their house to pay for ABA. Yeah. It was awful. It was awful. So, I mean, at least now, if you have an insurance company and they're jerking you around, you have a basic entitlement. And I think if you are serious about getting ABA and your insurance company is giving you a problem, there are insurance professionals who will help you to get those hours. Yeah. So, it's easier now. What's hard now is the proliferation of companies so that it's impossible to be knowledgeable in all of them. And then the other issue is really, the nomenclature. Like, I've had clients say to me, what's so great about ABA? And then when I asked them what they were doing, they were basically, somebody's coming in a couple times a week and giving them parent training.
Right.
So
Right.
people need to know what they're fighting for.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it's something we're always trying to do here. I don't know why it's so hard, but yes, absolutely. We got a lot of people shedding a lot of love. People saying we used to pay $100 an hour. Yeah. Out of pocket, which, it's crazy. And think about, so you need 40 hours of that a week. Okay.
So that's
Let's get to this.
$200,000 a year.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. So
Okay.
but that's just for the therapy, not everything else.
And we would put them there. Now, why is that different from using a public program? Because in many public school districts, the focus is to defeat the parent so that the parent can't make the case that the district should pick up the ABA therapy when the time comes. And so what should happen and what can happen in a good private pre-K setting is that the people who are running the program, the teachers, will collaborate with the parents to get the best result for the child. When you are in a public school, more times than not, they are very concerned with making the case that you don't need the aid, or their aid is good enough, or anything along those lines. And so you don't need to be fighting two battles when one of the battles you're fighting is autism. And so put off that public school stuff now. Oh shoot. Sorry. What would the reason be for asking the school district to offer you FAPE? As far as I'm concerned, the only reason would be to get an offer from them that's going to be a bad offer so that you could sue them for preschool tuition reimbursement and ABA copays. So that might be a reason to do it if the ABA copays and preschool were cost prohibitive. But I have had dozens of conversations with parents where I've said to them, go do ABA for a year and a half. Don't get bogged down in this other stuff. And the feedback I got after the fact was that was the right message. Yeah. So what other questions were contained within her question? Did we answer them all?
No, I think that you answered really well. And I gotta say that I also agree with you that back in the day when we were starting, we did have to go through the school district because we were fighting for funding, because we didn't have insurance. But here in Los Angeles, there are three things that I can suppose is that this family member can come to you when it is time to go to school to negotiate what to do, which is great. So that's in your pocket. Here in California, we have Medi-Cal, and every single child that's in California, we've been told that every single parent, regardless of your income, should apply for Medi-Cal. That you'll get denied on the first go through if your income is too high, and that once you've been denied that, then you apply under disability. But that will, even if you have private insurance, having Medi-Cal is going to be useful and important for you for many reasons down the road. But I know that through those things and also there's a lot of really good ABA in Los Angeles. Yes, there's a shortage in therapists right now.
So that was my question. Yeah, what should you do if you don't have the kind of social opportunities that you want with COVID? I hope it's okay if I say this on the air because it's another ABA company, and I don't know if CARD's doing the same thing. But
go for it.
CUSP has been setting up, as I understand it, pods for families. So you can have your child, and you don't have to be getting your treatment through them. I think you can have your child get in a pod with another child and have some social interaction. And that would be very, very important. I'm really sorry I skipped the second part of the question because I have been thinking about how easy it has been for me during COVID because I don't have any children I'm responsible for. But the other day I was with my little grandson and it was raining and he couldn't go outside and, he was frustrated. And I was like, this is what it's like to be a COVID parent. You're stuck at home and your kids need stuff that they're not getting. So I think this is going to go on for a while. And I think there's a vaccine in sight, so I think it's not going to go on indefinitely. But let's just say for the next 6 months, if you want to have social opportunities for your child, you're probably going to have to creatively, create them, because I don't think there is going to be a lot out there, and it is very hard to imagine being a parent of a child with autism in this particular time period, because I think Shannon knows this. I've told her this before. I would have a fit if a therapist canceled for one session. I was just, I was trying to make sure that it all got done. So this is a really, really hard thing for parents whose children have disabilities, and even for parents whose children don't. They're suffering too. But it's the same old. It's the same old, same old. You gotta roll up your sleeves and use your smarts and figure out this stuff just the way you figured out how to help your child and get ABA in the first place.
Yeah. We have a parent who's writing in from Oregon who said, how would that work with ABA telehealth and withholding kindergarten? I think it largely depends on what age. As you mentioned, in California, it's 6. I don't know what the age is in Oregon that they need to be in school by. Do you?
No, but you can look it up. Well, I'm not a professional, so I don't want to talk about what my gut reaction is to hearing the term ABA telehealth.
Yeah. Well, yes, I think the thing about ABA telehealth that they're finding, and they're getting ready to publish a bunch of studies about it, but I will tell you, Bonnie, that, and what I've seen anecdotally from the parents that I work with, is that if the parent is available and willing to be there and work as the facilitator. So what it is that the therapist is online in telehealth,
Mm-hmm.
and saying to the parent, okay, now I want you to do this.
Mm-hmm.
That what happens then, those children they've learned exponentially, and so have the parents. If the parent is not able, and let's face it, a lot of people are not able to, because of work, to sit there and be the facilitator. And some parents are like, I'm just not good at this. And let's face it, everybody is not good at this. In those instances, I think it's a really uphill climb. But when the parent or someone in the family is able to sit there with them, we're seeing that the kids make so much more progress, because not only is the kid learning, but the parent is learning too. It's hard though. It's hard. I don't know that I could have done it, Bonnie. I don't know that I could have done it. But for those parents, they're writing and telling us this is life-changing, that they're learning more than they were from watching the therapist because they're doing. So yes, Hassan, you can ask questions, absolutely. Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.